where now he's trying to explain two aspects. Most important is that the Brahman is not non-existence, is not non-existent. In case there is a fear that he doesn't exist, in order to remove that, Bhagavan says by employing a few upadhis, a few superimpositions of names and forms, Sarvata Pani Padam Tat Sarvato Kshira Sarvatokshi Shiromukam Sarvatah Srutimalloke Sarvamavritya Tishtati. That is how it exists. So it's very subtle, it's beyond subtle, it's extremely subtle, and therefore you can only have some guesswork or some sort of an approximation to what exactly it is. The Shruti Vakyas are there. They will tell you about this Lakshana. But for Indriya Pratyaksha, there is no way it's possible. And therefore, he's giving us certain ways in which we can deal with it by looking at the Bahi Indriyas and the Antarindriyas, whatever we have. And it exists as if it has certain qualities. It doesn't have any, but it behaves like that. And it is all pervading Sarvamapitya Tishtati. Sarvendriya Gunabhasam Sarvendriya Vivarjitam. It appears as if it's actually experiencing whatever these Indriyas are doing because it is the source of everything. It's like a boss who absolutely doesn't take interest in anything, but everything is happening under his gaze. And therefore, everything is kind of attributed to him. Asaktam sarvabhritchaiva, and it's not having any shambandha, any actual relationship with the sansara, with anything that we see. However, this is sarva vrit. It does takes care of all of us. Is the sarva niyamaka. Nirgunam guna bhakticha, and then it doesn't have any qualities, but we attribute the enjoyment of whatever we are doing as if it's done by Bhagavan. That is what we had done, and now he sort of is expanding that understanding in the next verse. Okay, that much. Now, there was one particular thing which I saw in Nilakantha. There is a better Vakya. We could just mention it a little. So what he's saying, Tasmad Brahmanaha Savishesatvam. So Bhagavan having these adjectives, these details that we attributing to him, even though he's Nishkala. Nishkala Atma Bodhat Prageva. So there is descriptions about Bhagavan that he is XYZ, that Bhagavan is Gunamrit, that is Sarvata Panipada. All these adjectives are useful when? When we haven't had Atmajnana. When we don't have that Atmajnana, we have to start somewhere, and that somewhere is here. And he's saying that the technique is that you do some adhyaropa, and then you will do apavada. To start with, the adhyaropa happens. He's saying Brahmana Savisitum Niskalatma Bodha Prageva. Before that Niskala Atma Bodha, Natu Urdhvam iti avasyam tattva jnanena vaditum sakyam iti anupadikam brahma na kenachid karyasesatam netum sakyam. Tad adhigame kriyakaragati dvaita apamardat upasya upasako upasana bhedasya vaditatvat. So what he's trying to say, this is a little technical, but it's very interesting. Before the Nishkala Brahma Atmajnana, that it is not different from us, we are in the process of meditating on it. So we do Navaratri, we do Shivaratri, we do Ram Navami, Janmashtami, everything. And then we are actually trying to meditate on the Atma Tattva by using names and forms. Like in Chidambaram temple, when you go, they put that screen and they say that Lord Shiva is just behind it. So this screen is important to draw attention to Lord Shiva. When the screen is removed, there is nothing. Similarly, here is just an example that when that Nishkala Tattva, it doesn't have any parts, it doesn't have any name and form, but up till that point only, we are doing the sadhana. And when We have successfully realized the self. The Upasaka, Upasya, and Upasana Veda. There is meditation, there is a meditator, and there is a subject matter of meditation. These Vedas, these Triputi goes. Okay? And that is what he's saying. So that particular, this Kriya Karakadi Dvaita. So these Dvaitas, these divisions, that there is a activity going on, and there is a person who is doing it, and there is a Karya Phala, all these dualities get dissolved in the infinite Satchidananda Swarupa Chaitanya, which you become. In the sense, all the adjectives, nouns, all the descriptions are removed. Then what remains in the end is that pure consciousness, and that is what is Atmabodha. That is what is being conveyed to us. Okay, tad adhigame kriya. Okay, and then kincha nigaranam guna bhaktrisho, and then it's also um, uh, so tasmad Tasmad yuktam mukta upadhikritam rupam mithya. So even though, just because of our meditation, we are doing all that, but that is mithya, that is not absolute. But for our upasana, we are doing it. That helps us do it. Like, for example, while doing algebra, if you remember, we used to say, let's assume it's x. It's not x. The value will be known later on. But we used to start our mathematics by assuming the value of something we are trying to determine as x. And then you use that x to solve the problem, but actually x is equal to 3 by 4 or anything which comes as the answer. That is the real nature of the value you wanted to attribute, but you start with x. So you start with certain adhyaropana, certain attribution of guna, certain kartritva, bhoktritva, all that you attribute to Bhagavan in order to meditate on that Atma Tattva. And then there was this particular mention from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Dhyayatyeva, Lilayatyeva, that he is explaining in a beautiful way. Buddho dhyayantyam tatra pravishtaha chidabhaso dhyayativa vishayan. Buddho lilayantyam Vishaya pradesham gachantyam sopi lilayatyeva natu swatah dhayati lilayati va iti pratipadayati. So actually this Atma doesn't do dhyayati. In the sense, you have these indriya grama, you have these jnanendriyas, consciousness, that reflected consciousness which is there. It sort of connects with a lot of objects outside of us. And then it appears that Sakshi Shakti which is there, that Pratyekatma in you, is getting connected with everything, is meditating on these external objects of perception. It actually doesn't. Therefore, dhyati eva, as if it's connecting with these things through the buddhi indriyas. Similarly, through the karma indriyas, certain things are happening, but you're again saying as if it is actually moving. It's not moving anywhere. That is what is pratipadita here. Etena apanipado zavano grahita pasyatya sakhyuh sa sunatya karnaha. So it hears without using its ears, and it sees without hearing, using its sense. It doesn't have these indriyas. The Atma doesn't have the senses. This is the body which has. So therefore, it is without hands and legs. It accepts, and it also moves anywhere it wants. That is what is. So that is how this particular kind of thing is saying that there is a contradiction in the way Brahman is to be understood by us. By nature, it's nirvikara, nirguna, nishkala, achala, nitya. But it appears to our eyes with names and forms. That is being conveyed here. And then that understanding is kind of extended as to why we are not being able to see that Brahman. Okay, and because that is a challenge, so that is being explained by Sankaracharya, starting Kincha Vahir Antar Iti. Bahirantascha Bhutana Macharam Charamevacha Shukshmatva Tadavijniyam Durastam Chantike Chatat. So it's not all Vigyam. Vahir Antascha, it's both outside and inside. That particular thing, that Brahma Tattva is all pervading. Bhutanam, and is there in all the bhutas. Who are they? All the animals and birds and humans. Charam and acharam. What are the acharam? The plants, because they are nagaha. They cannot go anywhere, like mountains, plants. They are stuck at a particular point of origin. Till they die, they're stuck there. So in some of the Dharma Shastras, they said that a person who hurts others and causes a lot of violence to others, he is reborn as a tree. He cannot talk to anyone. Anyone cuts a branch, plucks flowers, plucks fruits, or chops a branch, it cannot complain. So all the goons and terrorists and all are reborn as plants. That is what they say. Vahiran and Charam, all the animals and the birds and their Jangama and everything. Charam, Acharam. Charam eva cha sukshmatvat tad avigyam. Why can't we see pratyakshatvena through our senses? Why can't we see that Brahma Tattva? You are saying it's there. You removed our doubt. But why? Why can't I see that? Why you are having to have these upadhis all the time? Why can't I directly perceive? Then he's saying Shukshmatvar. You cannot see that because it's beyond the ability of your senses to apprehend it, to go closer to it. Durastam, avigyam, in what sense? Not perennially unknowable, because if you say perennially unknowable, earlier you said na sat na asat, grahyatvena. Through Indriya Grahana, no, neither sat nor asat. It's other than sat and asat because it's supra your sense perception. It's above that, and it's different from whatever you externally know in this whole phenomenal reality. It's a different kind of jnana. That is Atma Jnana, different from all other knowledge forms. That is what was indicated here. He's saying avigyam. Then again you will have this doubt. That means I can never know about Brahman. No, he clarifies. Durastam chantike cha tat. It is far away from you. It's avigyam because it's very shukshma. It's very subtle. Is durastam. It's at a long distance from you. If you are dull-minded, if you are a avidwan, or if you are a person who doesn't have the antakarana shuddhi to engage in Vedanta, Sravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. For them, it is durastam. Chantike chat, and also very close to you. Antika, anta, there is a tan pratyaya and thasya ikaha, it becomes antika. That means samipye. It's close to you. And then you can easily get it. You remember Bhagavan has been saying the same thing in different other chapters. It's very difficult to know me, but not for the one who has done Antakarana Siddhi and who is my bhakta. For him, I'm always there. He always sort of tells you two things at the same time. He says, I'm very hard to get, and then he will say, I'm very easy to get. But for you to get me easily, you have to have a few qualifications. Then you can get me very easily. If you look at anything, almost everything where we associate the word success, it's almost like that. $1 million could be impossible for a common person, and it's just like, it's just a simple thing for a wide, sharp guy like Musk, or somebody who is dealing with these high tech, right? You have these tech space where people are becoming billionaire in a couple of weeks. I'm just exaggerating, but they do become in a couple of years. So what he's trying to say is Sukshmatvad avigyam durastam chantike cha tat. So it's also easily available. Let's look at how he explains. Thus, this also here there is a bit of Nilakantha, which is very interesting. We'll do that. This chapter, if you successfully enjoy, all of Vedanta is done. Vahihi Tvakvaryantam. So, whatever sort of comes till the skin, because inside will become antar. Swakvarjitam deham atmanam. Deham atmatvena avidya kalpitam apeksha. So, this particular body, which you see outside your internal aspect, what do you see? You see the eyes, the ears, whatever is, up till this body. That is what is visible to the eyes. Deham, this physical body, and how you accept it, atmatvena, you treat this as yourself. Atmatvena avidya kalpitam apeksha. And because of your ignorance, you confuse this as your body. and you imagine this is the self, tam eva avadim kritva, and you think this is the final thing. This is what is I see, my eyes see it, I have no doubt, and this is what is the ultimate thing. Bahi uchyate, and that is what is called the bahir thing. This Atma has this Bahir aspect. Provided you confuse this body as Atma, whatever you see outside of your constitution, physical constitution, becomes the external aspect of your Atma. Please understand what he's trying to say. The Atma has no physical form, right? And it has no emotional form, it has no knowledge form, it's beyond all these forms. It's neither Sukshma nor Sthula. It's beyond all that you can know, either through Anumana or Pratyakya, through any logical inference or through direct perception. However, it exists, and that we have to explain. Therefore, he's saying that if you imagine this body as real because of your faulty understanding, then you will tend to describe this physical body as the external aspect of that Atma. That means what? Before self knowledge. At this intermediate period, when we do not know what is the self, we say this is the outside of my Atma. It has this external aspect. Tatha pratyag atmanam apekya. And then, pratyag atma, that Shakti Chaitanya which is inside, if you sort of make use of it, compare this, they have eva avadhim kritva, and then you say within this body, whatever your subjectivity which is there, kritva antaruchyate. So you'll refer to your mana, buddhi, and everything, and that particular thing which is going on, you'll refer to that as the internal aspect of the self. The self has no internal or external aspect because it's not a physical thing. Vahir antasya iti ute madhya bhave prapte idam uchyate acharam evacha yat chara acharam deha bhasam api tadeva gyam tatha rajju sarpa bhasaha. So somebody might have this thing that what is there in between, what is, I mean, there is no middle, there is outside, there is an inside. Then he's saying that no. He's saying that madhya bhave prakte idam uchyate. Then he's saying that no, the self sort of manifests in many other things. Like you see, there are intermediate levels of existence. In the human being, there is a super sharp internal aspect to these existence, and that is a very beautiful, to our eyes at least, much more detailed manifestation of the self outside. You have hands, you have legs. Animals have hands and legs, but the hands are not as skillful as you are because they don't have the fingers which they can use as skillful as you can. The animals have a mind, but they can't use it as skillfully as we can do. So they're kind of in the intermediate levels. That is what it's saying, that charam, acharam, both the plants and the animals and all, they are also carrying that Atma. So he's saying that this is also kind of pervaded by this infinite Nitya Vastu Kala Atma. Deha bhasam api tadeva gayam ratha rajju sarpa bhasam. But that particular Atma is not easily visible to our eyes or to our mind, or any ways we try to grasp it. We can only see the snake in the rope. Same way we see animals, we see birds, we see plants, we see human beings. We guess what their mind is doing, their emotions are. Somebody is smiling, we say is happy. So we are trying to imagine and understand about the external and internal aspects of all that we see, chara and achara, on earth. But actually, that self of which we see this as external and internal is not visible to us. It's a beautiful thing. It's just imagine there is an office, the office is running, but you never see the boss. So you say this is the external gate of that boss, everything is happening, everything is controlled, and you go inside, you see the internal thing, but where is the boss you are not finding. But it's all running nicely. Okay, it's like that. And Rajju Sarva Bhasaha. अच्छा, यदि अचरम चरम एव च व्यवहार विषयम सर्वम ज्ञेयम किमर्थम इदम इति सर्वैः न विज्ञेयम इति. So if you are saying that everything chara and achara, these are all phenomenal realities, and that is what is Vyavahara Vishaya. That means, and why at all you are saying that there is something which is there in all of it is the Gaya Vastu, the Gyatavya Atma, which is there. Kimartham idamiti sarve na vigyam, and why is it not visible to anybody? Anybody cannot see it. And what is this all about? He's saying Uchyate. No, no, I will explain to you. Satyam sarvabhasam tat tathapi vyomavad sukshmam ataha sukshmatvat svena rupena. It is there everywhere, my dear. Don't think it doesn't exist. It is there. However, satyam sarvabhasam tat tathapi. So it is there, but it is appearing in a different way. Abhasa rupena. How? He's saying sukshmatvat. And what is the example? Like the sky. The sky is not visible to the ears. You are hearing sound, and sound is traveling through the sky, and then you are presuming there is something through which the sound is traveling, and therefore there is the space or the sky, whatever you call it. Of course, science says that sound requires a medium, but in our tradition, they thought that sabda is in space, in akasa. But then in advanced science, you will that science actually is a certain wave which requires a medium, and space without something in it cannot be a medium. So anyway, that is a very advanced thing, and there are many other ways to look at it. That the waves, which is sound waves, which are coming through the space, if those waves can be interpreted, then perhaps the sound waves can be perceived. But then I'm not a scientist, so a lot of people are interpreting what could be the sound of the sun by interpreting the waves emanating from it, because actually it's not traveling to us. We do not know what is the particular sound of the sun. And some people, there are a lot of viral videos where they tell you funnily that it sounds like home, and then there are other videos who say that as if there is some firecrackers going on, and there are different kinds of people. I think the firecracker story is perhaps more real because they're advanced scientists. That's what I've talked about. It Vyomava sukshmam ataha sukshmatvat, because that atma is extremely subtle, and therefore swena rupena, by itself, by its very nature, it cannot appear. However, you can sort of look at this balm and you can say that there is space inside, right? There is some space inside. But if I remove the cover, this particular akara of this particular object, then I cannot understand what is space. That is all. So the akasa, the space, without any defining lines, anything, any idea of geometry, you do not know how to appreciate it. So it's saying that durastam and therefore nityam. So vidusam tu atma eva idam sarvam. But so far the intelligent guys are concerned, the atmavid people are concerned, those who are the vidvat purusha, those who are intelligent guys, self-realized, for them sarvam atma iti. Everything is atma. They are not looking for atma outside of themselves because everything is atma for them. Sarvam brahma eva idam sarvam ityadi pramanatah. And there is a lot of sarvam basudevam iti, there is a lot of sastra pramana. They read Upanishads, they're experts, and they accept it. Nityam vigyatam. Avigyatataya durastam. Nityam vigyatam. Actually, all of us know this. Why? We all are Atmagyanis. We are in a state of dream. We are in a state of intoxication. What is the name of that intoxication? Intoxicated by avidya or adhyana. It is like a very sharp, intelligent student. He has taken some kind of, like you are taking a lot of antihistamines or something. So he feels sleepy. He goes to the exam hall. What happens to him? He's the sharpest student. He fails in the examination. He's not being able to respond. The brain doesn't, because it is under the biochemical substance. It slows down the whole cognitive process. His reflexes are slowed down. Now, we are kind of affected by this particular biochemical thing called avidya or akhyana. So, our ability to meditate on ourself has got weakened. It's extremely difficult for us to meditate, and therefore, we are unable to realize what it is. That is the purpose of this. But it's nitya vijnatam, it's always there. We know that we exist. Earlier, Bhagavan had mentioned a person who says he absolutely doesn't know, a person who says that he It is in Kena Upanishad, that sentence is there. You cannot say you absolutely don't know yourself. You don't know yourself fully. Then you have to meditate on it. And this particular Atma is different from what is known and what is unknown. That is how the teacher is kind of guiding his students as to how to meditate on the self. So he's saying what? By itself, it doesn't appear, and it is far difficult for a person, even though it's Nitya Vijnatam, it's far difficult for a person to fully grasp it. Therefore, it is Durastam. Varsha Sahasra Koti Api Avidusam Aprapyatvad. Why is Durastha? It can take millions of years for a dull guy to be an expert mathematician. So he will not at all understand what some of the astrophysicists are talking about because he doesn't have any access to it. Similarly, this Atma thing is very difficult for an Agyan. It's not about mathematics here, it's about Atma Jnana, Antakarana Suddhi, how pure he is. Therefore, he cannot reach there. However, Antikesh at the same time is very close. For whom? Tad Atmatvad Abhidusam. So, and it is very close for one, for the Vidgat Purusha. Tad Atmatvad Vidusam. Because it is that jnana, that Atma jnana is not different from the self. And the moment we are aware of ourselves, that Atma jnana is part of us. When we are unaware of ourselves, then it is far away from us. As I was telling you, somewhere I read, it's a very interesting story. It's like Vedanta is all about starting a long trek with a Google map where the destination is no different from where exactly you're standing. It's only a transformation of the consciousness through which you understand this was my destination after the long trek. So that is how he sort of have explained the verse 15, but we'll look at a couple of interesting things which are mentioned in Madhusudana, Nilakantha and Madhusudana. But let's quickly do Madhusudana. Bhutanam, Bhavana Dharmanam, whatever are happening, they are Bhavana Dharmi. Sarvesham Karanam, what is these all products? What is the Karana? Brahmaneva. Kalpitanam, Akalpitanam, Adhisthanam, Ekameva. So all these Kalpita imaginary realities that we are seeing, like a film projected on the film screen, the Adhisthana is that film screen. Similarly, the Atma is the Adhisthana of all that are happening. Vahir Antascha Rajuriva Swakalpitanam Sarva Dharadina. So there is a rope which is lying dark night. So you think there is a water stream which is going, or maybe there is a break, because of earthquake, or you think this is a snake. You might think about all that, or Sarpadhara, or whatever. You can think about all that. So Dharadinam Sarvatmana Vyapakam Ityarthaha. Now the rope is permeating all over the snake. Can there be a snake in an area where there is no rope? No. If the rope is 5 feet, the snake will appear to be 5 feet. If the rope is 3 feet, the snake can only be 3 feet. That means all this samsara cannot exceed the Brahman. Brahman is Sarvavyapaka. In a limited way, the samsara appears. The reality far exceeds what we can see or talk about. That is what he's saying. Ata eva acharam sthavaram. Acharam means what cannot move. Sthavaram, the plants and mountains and everything. Charam jangamam cha bhuta jatam tadeva adhishtanatmakatvat. So whatever you see, that final adhisthana, the foundation of all this is that atma padatha. Yadi evam tari sarvehi idam iti kimartham na vigyam. So then why cannot you see that? Why can't you know that? Iti chet tatra aha, he's saying shukshmatvat tad avigyam. It appears as if it is very difficult to know. It's avigyam because it's very subtle. Yatha amradigate rupe chakshusa. Chakshu पाकत्वेपि चक्षुषाकत्वेपि सूक्ष्मत्वाद् रूपादिहीनत्वात् तद् अविज्ञम् इत्येवम् इति स्पष्टज्ञानार्थं न भवति. What he's trying to say, sometimes there is certain color which is there, which is appearing, but from a distance you may not see that color. It's quite possible because it's very subtle, right? And same way, this particular Atma is very subtle, and therefore you're not being able to appreciate it. That is why it's saying avigyam. Doesn't mean it is never knowable, because Atmagyana otherwise will become impossible, and then Shastra will become nirarthaka. Eva Atmagyana sadhana sunyana. The ones who are not doing any sadhana, any chesta for getting Atmagyana. What is the sadhana for Atmagyana? Sravana Manana Nididhyasana preceded by Nishkama karma and Upasana. So we have done the Nishkama karma, we have done Upasana, Antakarana Suddhi Purvaka, you do Sravana Manana Nididhyasana, Atmagyana happens. Can take a few lives, we need not bother. Anyway, we have nothing to do, we'll have to only suffer, come here, make a few movements, go back and come back. So why bother? Rather be focused on the destination. Don't bother about when you're reaching, but the direction of the destination is more important. Be on the right path. Varsa Sahasra Koti Api Aprapyatvat, and that guy who is not focused without having the chesta, he cannot never reach the Durastam cha Yojana Lakshya Koti Antarivam Antaram Ivatat. So it's like millions of kilometers or miles or nautical miles or whatever you call it, as if it's physically away. But actually, where is it that Atmagyan? It's you only. So it's only a upalakshana, it's a manner of speaking. That is what is being, intended to convey to us. Jnana sadhana sampannanam too. But however, the guys who are doing sadhana, that Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, they are doing the Jnana sadhana sampannanam too. Antikecha is very close to them. They can quickly know it. That atyanta avyavitam eva atmatvat, and it's absolutely not far up from you. It's very close. It's not vyavahita. Atyantam avyavitam eva. There's a printing error here. Okay. Okay. So durat sudure tad iha antikecha pasyatsu yaha eva pasyatsu iha eva Nihidam Guhayam Ityadi Sutibhyaha. So he's quoting that there's a very famous thing that it appears as if it's far away from you, but it's actually very close to you. Why? That is very much in your heart. You have to meditate and discover and find out. That is what he's saying. There are a couple of sentences I'll seek your indulgence so that we have time. We'll do one more verse, but not rush away because this is a very interesting part of the Bhagavad Gita. He's explaining with a little more detail, Nilakantha, about why this is avijnaya and what we need to sort of deal with it so that we don't think that this is extremely difficult for anybody to know. That is what he's explaining. So let's pay a little attention to it. Bhutanam praninam ekadasa indriyani sthula bhutani. We have these 11 indriyas, isn't it? 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, and manas. So sthula bhutani cha kevala vikaratvena vyavahitatvat vahir iti uchyante. So all these, he's saying this vahir is what? Actually is referring to all the indriyas, because you're connecting with these indriyas with this sthula. So this is he's referring to is the external aspect of the Atma, the indriyas. Okay? And then Mahad Ahankara Panchatanamatra Avyaktani Prakriti Rupattvena Sannihitatvad Antar iti Uchyate. So what is the Antar? He's saying the Prakriti thing. Astadha, this Apara Prakriti and Para Prakriti. But here what he's referring to is that he sort of cleared this whole thing. This Bahir and Antara of that thing, that Apara Prakriti only is explaining that these the 11 indriyas, you can say the external aspect of that self which is you. And then Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, and Prakriti, Panchatanamatra. Sorry, not the Manas. Manas is already there in Bahir. because it always connects with the external world. The buddhi, ahankara, and then prakriti. That prakriti is that maya, that mula prakriti, and then pancha tanamatras, the sukshma bhutas. They are the internal aspect of this atma. In the Sankhya tradition, if you want to split it, so you have prakriti vikriti, right? So mula prakriti is one, then prakriti is a seven. What are the seven? Mahad and ahankara and panchatanamatra. They are the cause, they are also the effect. They are the effect of the mula prakriti, but they are the cause of the stula bhuta, panchabhuta outside, panchatanmatras. And then also, all these indriyas and all manifest out of them. So they are both prakriti and vikriti, seven. So what he is trying to explain to us here is that Mahad Ahankara and the five Sukshma Bhutas, and they are together, the Sukshma Bhutas and Mahad and Ahankara and Prakriti. These eight we can call as the internal aspect of the self. Okay, good. That is one interpretation. Prakrutitva rupena sannihitatva, so they are very close, and therefore they are antaha. Characharamiti. Ubhaya nikrishtaha, chara achara, upadhi upalakshita. Now, those who are inferior in this whole process of manifestation or srishti, it's like inferior manifestation. They are chara and achara. We are also chara, but we are not referred to as chara. We are human beings, but they have this chara and achara. We are referring to them. Ubhaya nikrishta chara, upadhi upalakshita. This is a title which is given to them. Avadhi bhutaha, purusaha, charam acharam. Chet cha iti anena uchyante. So this word chara and achara, we're using the words to sort of referring to them, but they also have these, they are also Chaitanya Swarupa. They are also Purushas only, but that's what they are referred to as. Tatra characharam geyam iti samanadhikaranyat purushanam geyam brahma bhava uttaha. So all this Brahma Bhava it's there in all of us, okay? And that's what he's saying. And that Gya Vastu is there, Gyantavya Vastu is there in everything. Bahir Antasya Gyam iti Sodasastu Vikareshu Astasu Prakritishu Cha Gyayasya Sambandha Uktaha. So it's beautifully explained. That earlier chapter, what Bhagavan had mentioned, he's doing Samanvaya. He's saying you have the Vikaras, the Vikritis. And there is this Asta Prakriti, Mula Prakriti plus this Prakriti Vikriti together, Mahad, Ahankara, Pancha, Tanamatra. These eight are kind of, he's saying there is a Sambandha, imaginary Sambandha of this Atma which is in us with these external senses and the internal causative factors behind whatever manifests. Vikaresu ashtasu prakritishu cha gyasa sambandha uktaha. Sacha sambandho yadrisho yaksha tadrisho bali iti nyayana. So there is a particular Puranika thing is saying now it depends on who is looking at it. Depending on whosoever is looking, depending on that the drishya will appear. Depends on your vasana, your apeksha, your antakarana, how clean it is. This samsara appears in different ways to different people. So, what that particular sambandha is real or unreal? A jnani purusha will know that sambandha between this astadha prakriti and the shodasa vikriti is imaginary. However, somebody who doesn't have atma jnana may consider that real. That is why this verse is mentioned here. Okay, and then evam cha purushasya upalabdhi matra sarirasya gunehi saha adhyasika sambandha satvat guno upalabdhitvam yuchyate. Now this guna upalabdhi, this that it accepts all the guna, sattva, tamas, rajas. Why is this sentence becoming even at all coming into the picture? Because actually Brahma, that Atma Tattva, what is its nature? Prakasa Matra Swarupa. It's just appearance, it's just light. It's so Prakasamaya. But then he's saying, Yatha prakasa matra swarupasya ravehe prakasa sambandha apeksham prakasi tritvam tadvad ityartha. It's a beautiful example because of which I read all that. Please, let's look at it, and that will help us clear out the Vedantic secret being conveyed to us here. Now, the sun has the ability to shed light on the whole universe. When do we know? How do we know? When it becomes morning, the sun comes, and the sunlight is reflected on the plants and the water bodies and the buildings and everything. The world appears brilliant. We say Prakasaitra, that the Brahma, the sun is a Prakashaka of this Vishwa. We understand in the morning by doing apeksha, by referring to everything is lit up. So we say, obviously, the sun has come up because look, everything has been lit up. So the Surya, its ability to light up things is nowhere dependent on anything, but only when it's reflected on something, we would say the sun has come up and there is sunlight, and the sun has the ability to light up things. What it means is that in the Mahakasha, in the open space, if you go, go much beyond the earth, then that sunlight, the presence will be only evident. How? This is Vedanta. If you look at the wings of the, when you're flying high up, the wings of the aeroplane is the only, because, you cannot even see, it all looks dark when it's flying over 40,000 feet or something. Sometimes you don't see much. But however, even though there may be clouds, you cannot see below, and you cannot see it's all cloud and everything, but you can see that the sunlight is reflecting on the wings. The earth might, and if you look at it during dusk or early morning, the wings will light up. And similarly, this Atma sort of lights, and through which we can actually understand that there is that Swaprakasatva in the Atma. But we look at what is Prakashita, what has been lit up, to discuss and make sense of the one which lights up. It's a reverse way in which things are happening. We are doing a bit of guessing. We are doing a bit of, anumana here. Okay, we are sort of looking at it. But he's saying that it's very important to understand actually so prakasha, but we're referring to this, like we say sarvata pani pada. Similarly, we're saying that this atma has vahirindriya. What he's trying to explain is, if there is no atma in any of us, if there is not atma tattva in any of us, our indriyas, our antar, the anta aspect or bahir aspect will not have any meaning. And this antar aspect and bahir aspect are gaining their significance from that particular Shakshi Chaitanya, that luminous self, which is lighting up everything and giving meaning and significance to everything. Okay? Therefore, these words are kind of used. Nano nitya aparokshya purusha prakriti vikara sambandhasya tahi kuto na sarvehi gruhyate. And why that Atma, which is nitya aparokshya, you are saying, and you are referring to the Sambandha and all, but why that Atma we cannot know? Why can't we appreciate it? This is Sukshmatvat. What is that? Dulhavatvat. Tadgyam. That is Gyanatavya, very difficult to know. Avigyam means not unknowable. Avigyam means here what it means? Durvyam. Some people quote this thing, भगवान को आप कभी नहीं जान सके. क्यों? भगवद गीता में लिखा है अविज्ञेयम. How can you know Bhagavan? No, that means Durvigyam. You are not different from Bhagavan, that you already know a little about it. You don't fully understand it. So Durvigyam. So Yapa Kushuma Upahitasya Spatikasya. So just this is a beautiful example they keep giving in Vedanta. Just imagine that, and there is a red thing which you bring close, and the light, this Japa Kushuma, this China rose, which is held close by, the light falls on this white surface. And if you're wearing any crystal, you'll know that, or you're wearing diamond or anything, generally the light sort of falls on it, it reflects that. So the red light, which sort of comes to that particular crystal, it reflects it, it looks like red. Now, there are two ways to look at it. If you can see that red rose or that red China rose or whatever, you know the redness is not of that crystal because you have seen the crystal before, and you know this is reflection of that particular light which is coming from a corner. But if you haven't seen that, if there is a obstruction, there is a screen or something, okay, and then behind that there is a red light or something, and then you're holding a crystal, the crystal looks red. Okay, it's like on the stage when they're doing some dramas and plays and something like that, they project red, blue, green lights, and there is a little girl who is dancing and she looks like a pink human being because pink light is kind of reflecting on her fair face, and you see this girl is completely pink. Then she looks blue. Oh my god. And she dresses up as Lord Shiva and they focus blue light on her. Now, for another young child who is there with the mom, she gets confused. Mama, this girl was just looking pink and suddenly she has become blue. But later on, the baby laughs and understands that there is certain other source where the light is coming and reflecting on her face. Same way, this Japakushuma example is given here. Yatha Japakushuma upahitasya. Each upahita, that light is reflecting on that crystal spatikasya. Slokyam, that sukla rupa, the whiteness of it, sannihitamapi, it's very close to you. Rupandaram dikshepena tirohitam. Because there is some light is kind of reflected in it, that whiteness is kind of hidden, removed, stolen. Tirohitam sana na grihyate. That whiteness is there, isn't it? But it doesn't appear to your eyes. You cannot recognize that whiteness because there is a layer of that red color, that red light which is falling on it. Evam nitya oporokshyam api asangam. That atma which is asanga, no having no connection with anything, all indriya vivarjita. Even then, Brahma upadi upadhanat, and because there is a bit of upadi, the names and forms, and then because of our own jnana, viviktataya, the upadhanat, upadi upadhanat, viviktataya na grahitum sakyam. You cannot separate the Brahman from its upadhis. Because the red light is falling on that crystal, it will look red, come whatever may. Even you know that the sky doesn't have blue color, you'll continue to see the blue color. Even after Brahmajnana, if you want to see this sansara as one, it will look vichitra, it will look bibidha. Why? That's how, but then the red light is reflecting on this patika. Despite never convince who is seeing it for the first time that it's white. If you say as a Vedanta student, you should never try to convince anyone this sansara is mithya. Because you have studied Vedanta, they haven't. So they would laugh at you. That is what is being hinted here. So viviktataya na grahitum kintu aupadhika dharmo apetam eva grihyate. So you have these names and forms which are imposed on it. Only that way you can accept it. Mudhehi, by whom? Not by the Vedantis, by the ones who are not exposed to Vedanta. They haven't done that Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. They will never accept Brahman without name and form. Vidvat Bhitu, however, the intelligent ones, those who have studied Vedanta, they have a Purna Antakarana, for them it's different. Upadhi Prapilapanena, they remove all these names and form. Neti, Neti, they follow. Sugraham, for them it's easy to accept, easy to understand. Iti asayaha. So etadeva aha durastam chantike cha tad iti yatha mudha jala surye. This is another beautiful example given. You can give it to someone else also to explain. Yatha mudha jala suryam bimba surya durastam manyante. Now, if a person is looking at a lake and there is this sun or moon is reflecting on the water, and it looks at that water surface, it enjoys it. Like, for example, animals are very amused looking at the reflected thing. The boy also is amused. Oh my God, this is a beautiful moon. But it doesn't look at the moon. Somebody says, yeah, what are you looking at? Why don't you look at the moon? It's just right on your head. Then it looks up and it realizes, oh, I see, it's coming from there. but it enjoys because the water reflects that sunlight, which looks like a real sun. So he's explaining this. Manyante vidwangstu upadhi pratihata nayanaha nayana rasmi nam upari utpul upari utplutya. So they look up. They look up. They remove their eyes from that particular thing, and then what do they say? Gatanam bimba grahyatam spastam. So they understand that actually this is the bimba, this is the pratibimba. So that is how he is explained. And let's go to the next verse where he's saying now the viddhata, why one appears as many. That is explained in the verse number 16. अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तमिव च स्थितं भूतभर्त्री च यत् ज्ञेयं ग्रसितुं प्रभविष्णु च. Avivaktam, that Atma is one only. Cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. However, in this bhuta, chara, achara, all that, it appears as if it's reflecting in, like one sun reflects Jalachandravat. You have 50 pots of water, and the moon, you have 50 moons. Similarly, it appears as if it is pravibhakta, which is separated from one to all. Bhuta bhartri cha jyat. And then, actually, it is not a poshak or anything, but because it is the adhishtan of everything, it sort of maintains this whole body, this Atma Purusha. It appears like this. Actually, it's not connected with anything. Bhagavan has explained that earlier, that everything is in me, I'm not in anyone. And then in the next verse, he said, neither they are in me nor I am in them. The connection is like between the atmosphere and the sky. In he's saying, Bhuta Bhatu Tadadniyam. You know that like that. Grasishnu Prahavishnu cha. Grasishnu means what? It's sort of, it eats up everything. And then Prahavishnu cha, and then it creates everything. Srishti Kale, Pralay Kale, it eats up everything. There is this beautiful story they will give. We don't have time, we'll take over the details tomorrow. Just imagine that in a dark room, you see, just imagine it's a snake. You saw the snake, actually, it's a rope. Okay, the story is very beautiful. It's like this. Now, what happens is that then somebody puts on the light, and the boy was very scared, and everybody ran away. But this boy was not so scared. It puts on the lights, and it saw the rope. Then it laughs very loud, and then the grandmas, the old people, and others say, "What happened?" Then they see the rope, and they say, "Where did the snake go? Where is it hiding?" The boy starts laughing. What happened? He says, the rope has eaten up the snake. He said, what? The boy says, yeah, the rope has eaten up the snake. Because rope is actually true. There was no snake. Where did the snake go? They will still look for it. No. It was emerging out of the rope because of a faulty perception. तो सांप कहाँ गया? रज्जू खा गया. दौड़ा, वो सांप को खा गया. The बच्चा says, and he starts jumping. He's Atmagyani. Beautiful story. Similarly, he's saying Bhagavan appears to as if he eats of everything during Pralaya. And then he sort of creates everything during Srishti. Such to nahi hai, Paramarthikatvena, but it has an appearance of truth. And therefore, it is Grashishnu and it's also Prabha Vishnu. And we'll do, this is very beautiful details again. So we'll deal with it tomorrow. And so we'll stop here. Okay, 30. We have another class at 7. It's 8:30. So 8:45 we will have the Panchadasi thing. So I'll stop here.